Chapter 1. Tiffany was reborn on the day her parents presented the profiles of the eldest sons from the three major families of City N, asking her to choose one for a marriage alliance. Without a second thought, she shook her head. "I won't choose any of them." Hearing this answer, Mr. Oswald and Mrs. Oswald looked utterly shocked. Why? Because her heart ached. She had married all three of them in her past life. Everyone in the circle knew that the Lemoyne family, the Jonathan family, the Ives family, and the Oswald family were the four great aristocratic families standing at the pinnacle of City N. And Tiffany, being the only girl among the four great families, made the other three families eager to form a marriage alliance with the Oswalds. In her past life, when she first chose a marriage partner, she selected Noel, believing with all her heart that the rest of her days would be filled with happiness. But after marriage, out of 365 days a year, he was away from home for 364. Not only did this make her the laughingstock of their social circle, but he also died in a multi-car accident while protecting Sophia. Tiffany was widowed at a young age and, after 3 years of mourning, was remarried to Milan under her family's arrangements. Yet he, too, treated the marriage as inconsequential, ignoring her just the same. In the second year of their marriage, he lost his life in a deadly racing game, all for the sake of Sophia. Tiffany thus gained the reputation of being a husband killer and didn't remarry until she was 30, when she wed Lionel. This time, they treated each other with respect and lived peacefully into old age. However, before Lionel passed away naturally, he grasped her hand and left only one dying wish. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Tiffany, if there is an afterlife, don't choose me for a political marriage. I only wish to be with Sophia. Tiffany then realized that they both had feelings for Sophia. So their dying words were identical, all saying not to choose me for the marriage alliance. And Sophia, just the daughter of the Oswald family's butler, was plain-looking, with no outstanding qualities, only fond of acting coy and playing weak. Tiffany didn't know where she had lost, nor why they loved her so much, enough to willingly accept the marriage alliance just to prevent her from being targeted by the family. Tiffany spent her whole life witnessing their undying love for Sophia, and in that lifetime, she came to understand one truth. Tiffany is no one's supporting character. Those who don't like her, she no longer wants. So in this lifetime, she chose no one, but gave her parents a new answer instead. If I must enter a political marriage, I only wish to marry the Horace family's Orville. Upon hearing this name, Mr. Oswald and Mrs. Oswald both showed expressions of disbelief. Orville, that illegitimate child from the Horace family in City B. Why on earth would you suddenly want to marry him? Because in her previous life, Orville ended up becoming the world's richest person, topping the Forbes list, dominating the business world with immense power and influence. Since the marriage alliance was for the sake of the family, Tiffany was determined to maximize the benefits of this marriage. Orville is undoubtedly a choice with all advantages and no drawbacks. As for love, she no longer harbors any expectations. So despite Mr. Oswald and Mrs. Oswald's objections, Tiffany racked her brains to come up with countless reasons. City B's economic growth is robust. The Horace family's conglomerate is City B's top-tier elite. Haven't you always wanted to expand into City B but held back due to lack of foundation? My marriage would be the perfect opportunity. Orville, didn't you also praise him as ambitious, with sharp and ruthless vision, destined for great achievements in the future? After hearing their daughter's analysis, Mr. and Mrs. Oswald were both convinced. After careful consideration, they ultimately decided to respect their daughter's wishes and took the initiative to contact the Horace family, finalizing the marriage alliance. Tiffany, our families have reached an agreement. The wedding will be held in half a month. Hearing this response, Tiffany's heart finally settled. Time was tight. Mr. Oswald Mrs. Oswald hurriedly went to prepare the dowry. She sat alone on the sofa, her thoughts in turmoil, overwhelmed with mixed emotions. Before long, the sound of footsteps came from the doorway. Noel, Milan, Lionel pushed the door open and entered, their eyes all fixed on her. Tiffany, who did you choose as your marriage partner? Hearing their simultaneous question and seeing their tense, solemn expressions, Tiffany was momentarily dazed. The four of them had grown up together as childhood friends, practically inseparable. Her three older brothers had always treated her like a little princess, cherishing and protecting her as if she were the most precious jewel. They gave her whatever she wanted, took turns to comfort her when she was unhappy, and rushed to stand up for her when she was bullied. But now it seems that all this favoritism was merely treating her as a little sister. In her previous life, Tiffany thought they hurried over to question her out of anticipation. But now she understood. None of them wanted to be chosen, which was why they wore such expressions. At this thought, a wave of bitterness surged in her heart, and her chest felt so tight she could barely breathe. After a long silence, she finally composed herself and answered them in a hoarse voice. In 15 days, you'll know who I've chosen. Seeing that she still refused to speak the truth, they grew restless and wanted to press for a clear answer. But before she could speak, Tiffany's phone rang. Young Miss Sophia was seriously injured in an accident on the road and is now in critical condition at the hospital. But there are no available hospital beds. Could you please help save my daughter? Hearing Steward Henry's tearful plea, Noel snatched the phone, his voice filled with concern. Which hospital is it? The other end of the phone was silent for a few seconds. Before the butler Henry choked up and gave the name of the hospital. Noel hung up the phone, left a sentence, and turned to leave. Tiffany, don't worry about the hospital matter. It's just a small thing. I'll handle it. Seeing this, Milan and Lionel followed without hesitation, as if by prior agreement. This hospital is under Jonathan's family name. I'll go talk to the director to resolve it. Tiffany, you just rest at home. I also know a few very authoritative expert professors. I'll reach out to them. Tiffany, you don't need to worry about it. They all claimed it was for her own good. But in reality, they were just making excuses to see Sophia. Such blatant affection. How had she failed to notice it in her previous life? Watching their rapidly retreating figures, Tiffany let out a self-deprecating smile. She turned back to the bedroom with a heavy heart and gathered all the items related to them. By the time she finished, it was already dark. She opened her phone and saw Sophia's social media post. Another day of being showered with attention by the three young masters. The accompanying picture is Sophia's selfie in the VIP ward. She's drinking Lionel's signature nourishing soup, with Noel's watch on the table and Milan's jacket draped over the chair. She liked this social media post and stared at the three freshly organized boxes for a long time. The boxes contain gifts given to her at age 18 by Uncle Lemoyne, Mrs. Jonathan, and Grandpa Ives, which are also family heirlooms from the three households. Which gift she ultimately chooses to keep represents the Oswald family's choice of marriage alliance. Now that her marriage has been settled, it's time for her to give the answer. She contacted a courier to come to her home and handed the three boxes to the delivery person. Please send them to their respective addresses in 15 days, she instructed. After sending out the package, Tiffany threw all the just organized items into the trash. Noel, Milan, Lionel's jewelry, handbags, and gifts to her. The videos and photos they took together over the years. The suits she personally designed for them. All memories related to them became a thing of the past, completely buried. In this life, Tiffany will never repeat the same mistakes. She was fully absorbed in preparing for her wedding, paying no attention to the outside world. After several busy days of selecting her wedding dress and jewelry, she returned home to find Noel, Milan, and Lionel all gathered around Sophia. One was adjusting the air conditioning temperature, another was carefully cooling her medicine, and the third draped a blanket over her, fussing over her with utmost care and attention. Seeing Sophia being pampered like a princess, Tiffany couldn't help but feel a hint of self-mockery in her eyes. Their love was so clearly evident. How had she failed to see it in her past life? For a moment, a whirlwind of emotions surged within her, bitter and suffocating. Just as she was lost in melancholy, Sophia spotted her and stood up like a startled bird, her face filled with reverence and fear. "Young miss, you're back. I'll immediately draw a hot bath and prepare dinner for you. Please wait a moment." She was about to get up when Noelle stopped her. "Sophia hasn't fully recovered yet, and it's not like we're short of other servants at home. Tiffany, you can have someone else handle these minor tasks." Milan and Lionel chimed in, considering how badly Sophia was injured. "Tiffany, just let her rest and recuperate properly. If we're really short-handed at home, we can transfer a few servants over to help. There's no need to trouble Sophia." From the moment she entered, Tiffany was labeled with so many accusations without uttering a single word. She let out a soft sigh, her gaze slightly lowered. "I know she's just the daughter of our housekeeper, not a servant of our household. I've never forced her to do anything. Since you're so concerned about her, why not take her into your own home and care for her every day? Then you wouldn't have to worry." Sophia widened her eyes, knelt heavily on the ground, and kowtowed to her repeatedly. "Miss, it's my fault. I shouldn't have been so negligent just because I was ill. Please don't drive me and my father away." "Okay, I'll go do the housework right now." Right away. Her forehead was red from the impact, and she was crying pitifully, as if she had suffered an immense injustice. Seeing her tears, Noelle, Milan, Lionel's expressions darkened. They quickly helped her up and shielded her behind them, all turning their gaze toward Tiffany, their voices laced with suppressed anger. "Sophia did nothing wrong. You're trying to drive her away for no reason. Must you bully a young girl like her? She was injured and still wanted to cook for you. Yet you not only ignored her condition but also tried to force her to leave. Don't you have any compassion at all? Now she's even more hurt because of you. And in the future, she'll only dare to tough it out when she's unwell, pushing her to the brink. Are you satisfied only when something terrible happens?" Seeing their instinctive defensiveness, Tiffany's expression gradually turned cold. "I did nothing but suggest you could take her away. Does that count as bullying her? In your eyes, am I so unreasonable, spoiled, and willful that no matter what grievance she suffers, it must be blamed on me?" Under her repeated questioning, the entire living room fell silent. Seeing their stunned expressions, a deep sense of helplessness welled up in Tiffany's heart. She no longer had the desire to speak and retreated alone to the bedroom. Just as her mood had begun to calm, Sophia came knocking with a cup of coffee, looking timid. "I'm sorry, miss. Please don't be angry with the three young masters. They were just too worried about me, which is why they spoke so hastily in the heat of the moment. It's my fault that you ended up arguing with them. If you're going to blame anyone, blame me." Having lived through her past life, Tiffany knew she was trying to play innocent and stir up trouble deliberately. So she didn't take the bait. "Put the coffee down and leave my room." Hearing her icy tone, Sophia felt even more wronged but didn't dare to say anything more. She deliberately pretended it was an accident and spilled the coffee. Scalding coffee poured onto Tiffany, turning her skin crimson and raising blisters. She grunted and pushed away Sophia, who was trying to help clean up with tissues. Sophia took advantage of the moment to fall backward, hitting her head on the table and leaving a bloody gash on her forehead. The woman's piercing wail instantly echoed throughout the entire villa. Tiffany hadn't yet realized what was happening when Noelle, Milan, and Lionel kicked the door open and rushed in. Seeing Sophia lying unconscious on the ground, her head covered in blood, all three of them panicked. Milan shoved Tiffany aside. Noelle was the first to step forward and scoop her up, while Lionel pressed his hand against her still bleeding wound. They shielded Sophia as they sprinted away, paying no attention to Tiffany, who had crashed into the glass display case. The glass shattered into pieces, flying in all directions and cutting bloody streaks across her body. Blood stained her clothes as her face contorted in pain, her body trembling uncontrollably. watching their figures gradually disappear into the distance. Tiffany could no longer hold back, and tears streamed down her face. Her heart ached so intensely she could barely contain it, biting her lip hard to stifle any sobs, leaving only one final thought in her mind. She would leave their world, never to cross paths with them again. Enduring the pain, she went to the hospital to treat her wounds. Tiffany then took the prescription from the doctor to get her medicine, only to spot several familiar figures in the adjacent ward. Noelle, Milan, and Lionel stood guard outside Sophia's hospital room, their eyes filled with unconcealed heartache. I've said it before, Sophia is too gentle. Keeping her in the Oswald family will only bring her endless suffering. Once the marriage alliance is settled, we must find a way to bring her out no matter what. I don't want to see her hurt even a little more. Now that our parents know our true love is Sophia, we must ensure her safety. So, no matter who Tiffany chooses, the one selected must agree to this marriage without complaint. Only then will the family refrain from harming Sophia. Tiffany silently watched all this, her heart suddenly seized by sharp pain. So, this was the reason why they agreed to the marriage in their previous life. Even though they didn't like her, they thought they were sacrificing their own happiness to protect their beloved. But what they destroyed was her entire life. She lowered her head, laughing until tears streamed down her face. They can rest assured this time, none of them will have to sacrifice. After composing herself, she wiped away her tears and was about to leave when her phone rang. The sudden alarm startled the three men in the ward. They pushed the door open and saw Tiffany, all looking somewhat surprised. What are you doing here? Did you come to apologize to Sophia? How long have you been here? Did you hear something just now? Why are you so injured too? How did that happen? Facing their questions one after another, Tiffany answered them one by one. These injuries were from when you pushed me while trying to save Sophia. I came to the hospital to treat my wounds, not to apologize to her, because she was the one who spilled hot coffee on me first, which is why I pushed her away. As for bumping into you, that was just an accident. Hearing her recount the events, the three men froze for a few seconds, their expressions gradually growing complex, recalling what happened after they rushed into the room upon hearing the noise. Milan couldn't hold back and spoke first. Sophia didn't spill the coffee on purpose. She was injured and had no strength in her hands. So don't take it to heart. When we entered and saw all the blood on the floor, we thought she might be in mortal danger, which is why we lost our composure. We apologize. Noelle also calmed down. During the day, we weren't trying to blame you. We just felt sorry for Sophia and spoke up for her a little. Yes, we grew up together, and in our hearts, you've always been the most important person. Have you made a decision about the marriage alliance? Lionel's words left the three of them involuntarily turning to look at her, their expressions tense. Seeing their reactions and recalling the words she had just heard, Tiffany felt nothing but irony. I've made my decision. The three of you. Before she could finish speaking, the monitors in the hospital room suddenly began beeping incessantly. The hearts of all three men skipped a beat, and they turned back to the ward simultaneously to check the situation, while medical staff rushed over in a hurry. The patient's kidneys were further damaged after the secondary injury. We failed to detect this condition and administered inappropriate medication, which has now triggered kidney failure. The situation is very serious. Upon hearing the doctor's diagnosis, Noelle's eyes instantly reddened. What on earth are you doing? How could you administer the wrong medication? Sophia is still so young. If her future is ruined because of your negligence, can you bear the consequences? Milan grabbed the attending physician by the collar, his voice brimming with unconcealed rage. I'm giving you half an hour to come up with a foolproof treatment plan. Sophia, if anything happens to her, I swear I'll make you pay. Lionel was also frantically making calls, reaching out to contacts non-stop. Professor Jackson, you are one of the top nephrology experts in the country. I'd like to ask for your help to save a very important person. Where are you now? I'll send my secretary to pick you up immediately. The ward was in complete chaos. with everyone anxiously concerned about Sophia's condition. The hospital quickly assembled a professional team and formulated a treatment plan as swiftly as possible. The only solution now is a kidney transplant. But finding the most suitable donor might take some time. The longer we delay, the more dangerous the situation becomes. Chapter 4. After hearing the conclusion, the three men didn't hesitate for a moment and immediately went to get tested for compatibility. The results came out quickly. Noel's kidney was a match. Looking at the surgical consent form brought by the doctor, he signed his name without a second thought and walked into the operating room. Time passed minute by minute, and just as everyone was on edge, a new problem arose. The nurse rushed out in a panic, her voice filled with anxiety and unease. The hospital blood bank is running low. The patient urgently needs a large amount of blood now. Waiting at the door, Milan and Lionel immediately rolled up their sleeves upon hearing this. We have the same blood type as Sophia. We can donate, but the patient has massive bleeding. The blood from just you two won't be enough. We need to contact more people to come. There's no time to find others. The two of us are enough. We'll donate as much as needed to save Sophia. The nurse couldn't persuade them otherwise and had to take them into the transfusion room. The red light outside the operating room kept flashing, blurring Tiffany's vision. From the moment Sophia fell ill to their decision to donate blood, she had witnessed it all firsthand, leaving her mind completely blank. In her previous life, when Noel and Milan died because of Sophia, she wasn't present and only learned the details afterward. At that time, overwhelmed by grief, she couldn't comprehend why they had chosen to sacrifice their lives to save Sophia. After going through all this, she now understands that they simply loved Sophia, loved her to the point of being willing to sacrifice everything for her, whether it was marriage or life itself. They charged forward without hesitation, one after another, so she could never possibly win against Sophia. Fortunately, in this lifetime, Tiffany has decided to give up and will no longer be entangled in their four-way love affair. The lights in the operating room dimmed, and the doctor walked out, wiping sweat from his brow. Are you a family member? The surgery was a complete success, and the patient will wake up soon. However, the kidney donor still needs to be monitored in the ICU for a while. The two in the blood transfusion room also fainted due to excessive blood donation. Can you handle taking care of all four of them alone? Tiffany shook her head, her parched lips parting as she spoke in a hoarse voice. I have no relation to any of the four, but I can help contact their families. They'll be here soon. With that, she sent the Lemoyne family, the Jonathan family, the Ives family, and the butler Henry a message each, informing them of the matter. Then she wanted to leave, but overheard some nurses whispering, no relation. I thought she was the wife of one of those three handsome men. How could she be a wife? If your husband risked his life for another woman, could you tolerate it? I think those three handsome men must all like that girl. Why else would they compete to save her? Tiffany listened quietly, revealing a silent smile, agreeing with them in her heart. Yes, the one they liked, from beginning to end, was Sophia, and she would no longer become their wife. After dragging her sore and aching body back home, Tiffany saw her parents waiting for her in the living room. Seeing the injuries on her body, Mr. Oswald and Mrs. Oswald frowned, afraid they would worry. She quickly made up an excuse to brush it off. Hearing that she would recover soon, they finally relaxed and handed her a box. This is the betrothal token sent by the Horace family. Keep it safe. The one we sent has also been received by Orville. Just now, your Uncle Lemoyne, Mrs. Jonathan, and Grandpa Ives called to ask about the betrothal. They even brought up Sophia, saying the three of them were just being overly kind-hearted but still only favored you in their hearts. We don't know what happened, so we couldn't respond properly. You'll have to handle this yourself. You're grown now and have your own judgment. You know what's appropriate. So your father and I won't interfere. Tiffany didn't want to worry them either and promised to handle these matters properly. Over the next 2 days, She had someone gather information on Horace's family and Orville to get a preliminary understanding. With a general impression in mind, she went to the mall and prepared meeting gifts according to the preferences of their family members. After shopping all day, she returned home with a car full of gifts only to find Noel, Milan, and Lionel waiting at the door. They brought so many gifts that they almost filled the living room. Facing her puzzled expression, the three exchanged glances and took turns explaining. These were prepared by the family, and we came in person to apologize to you. As you saw that day, Sophia was hanging by a thread, and she was injured a second time because of you. That's why we got a little emotional and ended up hurting you. Tiffany, if you're holding a grudge directed at us, don't involve the elders, and don't blame Sophia entirely. After all, she's also a victim. After listening, Tiffany realized that they had been forced by their families to come and apologize, while also pleading on behalf of Sophia. She wasn't in the mood to argue with them and responded very politely. Take the gifts back with you. I don't need them, nor will I bother Sophia over such a trivial matter. I'm tired and want to rest. As she spoke, she rubbed her sore eyes and took out her phone from her bag. Unintentionally, the gift box containing Horace family's keepsake suddenly fell out and landed at Noel's feet. He bent down to pick it up. What is this? Milan and Lionel turned their heads simultaneously, and their expressions changed the moment they saw the box. A token of marriage alliance. Tiffany, you've already chosen a marriage partner. Who is it? Chapter 5. Tiffany looked up at the sound and, seeing them about to open the box, swiftly snatched it back. Seeing her such intense reaction, the three men were stunned, their gazes locked tightly on her. Who did you choose? Was it Milan or Lionel? Or perhaps, the last word, I? Noel did not say it out loud. Tiffany knew he was afraid she would actually choose him. She forced a smile and met their gaze with composure. What does it matter if it's decided? What does it matter if it's not? You don't need to be so nervous. It's none of your business anyway. Milan suddenly grabbed her hand, his tone urgent and desperate. What do you mean it has nothing to do with us? If you're going to arrange a marriage, the candidates can only be the three of us. Whether it's the Jonathan family, the Lemoyne family, or the Ives family, there isn't a second eligible person to be found. Lionel also gathered around, staring at her intently. We knew you couldn't make up your mind before, and we never pushed you. But now that there's a result, just tell us the truth. We also want to end this torment as soon as possible. So marrying someone you don't like, even if it's not yet finalized, can feel like torment. She took a deep breath, opened that box, and took out the dazzling diamond necklace sent by the Horace family, displaying it before their eyes. This is my answer. Are you satisfied now? Not the imperial green jade bracelet from the Jonathan family, not the 20-carat ring from the Lemoyne family, nor the heirloom jade pendant from the Ives family. Only then did the three of them notice the items she had bought filling the trunk of the car. And they understood something. It's not a token from any of our three families, but a new necklace you bought while shopping today. How much did it cost? We'll cover the full amount as an apology gift for you. Tiffany stared at the sparkling diamond in her hand, remaining silent. Noel thought she liked the necklace and took the initiative to help her put it on. Milan also gave a thumbs up in approval, praising how beautiful it looked and how well it complemented her skin tone. Lionel picked up his phone and took several photos, saying he wanted to keep them as mementos. After being reborn, Tiffany saw genuine smiles on their faces for the first time. The reason they were happy was because they thought she hadn't yet chosen a marriage partner, so they were relieved. For a moment, Tiffany felt it was both absurd and laughable. She wanted to say something, but before she could speak, she was interrupted by the sudden appearance of Sophia. Her eyes lit up as she looked at the gifts piled up in the living room. Why are there suddenly so many gifts at home? Are they for the young miss? The three of them saw Sophia return, their gazes glued to her as if magnetized, not moving an inch, seeing the corners of their mouths twitching with barely contained smiles. Tiffany spoke coolly. They're for me. But I don't like them. You can take them if you want. With that, she turned and walked back to the bedroom, paying them no further attention. Sophia wore an expression of disbelief as she pointed at herself. Me? Take them? Miss, you can't be serious. How could I possibly be worthy of gifts the young masters gave you? The three men detected the dejection in her tone and, feeling a pang of sympathy, quickly ushered her toward the pile of presents. Since Tiffany said she's giving them to you, they're yours now. These dresses, bags, and jewelry are all the latest releases. They'd look great on you. How could they not be worthy of you? Things only hold value when someone uses them. Sophia, don't underestimate yourself. You deserve the best things in the world. Go ahead and open them. We'll help you pick out what suits you best. The voices of the three coaxing Sophia gradually faded, and after the door closed, silence returned. The cold sensation around her neck made Tiffany feel quite uncomfortable, but she thought, with time, she would eventually get used to it. Chapter 6. After waking up from sleep, Tiffany felt a bit dizzy, as if she had a fever. Noelle, Milan and Lionel somehow got wind of the news and quickly rushed over. She was ill for 3 days, and they came to visit her every day, almost staying at Oswald's house, but spent very little time actually keeping her company. Most of the time, they were downstairs with Sophia, teaching her chess and piano, accompanying her to the garden to prune flowers and water them, taking photos of her, drawing her portraits. Tiffany saw all this but chose not to expose it. Occasionally, they would come upstairs to check on her and notice that many things were missing from her room. Tiffany, where's that pearl doll I gave you a few years ago? It's gone. Didn't you love the gemstone crown I gave you so much that you insisted on displaying it in the most prominent spot? Why haven't you put it out lately? What about the group photo we took together when we were 18? Where have you hidden it? Faced with their questioning, Tiffany casually came up with a few excuses to brush it off. Though puzzled in their hearts, they didn't press further. By the time her birthday arrived, she had almost fully recovered from her illness. Before attending the birthday banquet, Mr. Oswald and Mrs. Oswald came to pick her up and specifically gave her a couple of instructions. All the important figures in our circle will be attending today. The Lemoynes, the Jonathans, and the Ives are certainly coming to celebrate your birthday. Your father and I discussed it and think today would be the perfect time to announce the engagement. What do you think? Tiffany was about to nod when the sound of a shattering glass came from behind her. She turned around and saw Sophia standing frozen in place, her face pale. Young miss, you're getting married. Tiffany gave a slight nod without offering any explanation. After all, everyone would soon learn about this marriage. At 7 in the evening, the birthday banquet began on time, with the grand hall filled with guests and bustling with excitement. Dressed in tailored suits, Noelle, Milan, Lionel instantly drew the attention of the entire room as they entered together. I'm so envious of Miss Tiffany, having 3 such handsome childhood friends. She even gets to choose one to marry. When will I ever have such good luck? What's the use of your envy? This was an arranged childhood marriage agreed upon verbally since they were young. No matter who she chooses, they'll be well matched in social status and perfectly suited. I remember Miss Tiffany is about the right age now. Do you think she might announce her engagement today? I'm so curious about who she'll choose. Tiffany listened quietly to their discussions, her expression calm as still water. Yet the 3 men who heard these words grew somewhat flustered and quickly gathered around her. Tiffany, are you announcing your wedding today? Why didn't you tell us in advance? This is my private matter. It has nothing to do with you. Why should I tell you? Tiffany replied calmly, while their voices carried irritation. Are you still saying it has nothing to do with us? Could the groom at your wedding possibly be someone else? At this point, stop joking around and just tell us. Who did you choose? As soon as the words fell, Mr. and Mrs. Oswald stepped onto the center of the stage, nodded in greeting to the audience, and picked up the microphone. Today, despite your busy schedules, You have all gathered here to attend my daughter's birthday celebration. On behalf of the Oswald family, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to everyone. In addition to celebrating her birthday, we will also announce another joyous news today. The engagement partner of my daughter, Tiffany. Upon hearing this joyful news, the entire hall erupted in excitement, with applause and cheers that lasted endlessly. The most excited were the elders of the Ives family, the Jonathan family, and the Lemoyne family, who all stood up and waved, calling Lionel, Milan, and Noel to their sides. Seeing this scene, the three of them felt their hearts pounding wildly, their faces darkening as if water could drip from them. But they knew they had to maintain decorum in such a setting, forcing themselves to smile reluctantly and unwillingly returning to their families' sides. Mr. and Mrs. Oswald also gave Tiffany a look, understanding. She lifted her skirt and walked to her parents' side. I had just steadied myself when a crackling sound of electric current came from behind me. Tiffany turned her head along with the other guests and saw a familiar face appear on the large screen. It was Sophia, crying her heart out. Chapter 7. Noel, Milan, Lionel. I know I'm just a housekeeper's daughter. I don't have Miss Tiffany's stunning looks or her privileged background. So I accepted my fate from a young age and stopped hoping for anything that could be mine. Until you came into my world and said you liked me. That's when I dared to hope again. I'll never forget how you abandoned Miss Tiffany alone at the campsite and drove back overnight to comfort me from a nightmare. I'll never forget how you pretended to go on a business trip just to take me to the Arctic to see the northern lights for my birthday. And I'll never forget how you gave up a kidney and transfused blood until you passed out to save me. By the time you see this video, I'll already be standing on the rooftop of the Oswald Corporation building. I know one of you is about to marry Miss Tiffany. But just the thought of you becoming Miss Tiffany's husband and cutting all ties with me, never contacting me again, breaks my heart. I know you're not doing this willingly, that you're being forced into this marriage alliance by your families. I also know that if it weren't for your fear that I might be targeted by your families, you would never agree to marry Miss Tiffany. I can't bear to see you trap yourselves for my sake, sacrificing your future happiness. That's why I've decided to end my life today. After I'm gone, you'll be free from all constraints and can pursue whoever you truly love. The moment this 5-minute-long video abruptly ended, the entire hall fell into deathly silence. Everyone's eyes widened in disbelief as they stared at Noel, Milan, and Lionel, except for Tiffany. When she first saw this video, her mind indeed went blank, but recalling Sophia's state before leaving home, she didn't find it strange either. She looked at the three thunderstruck men in the audience and the elders beside them who were nearly fainting from anger, then let out an almost imperceptible sigh. What happened must be the hardest for these uncles and elders who watched her grow up to accept. After all, her parents already knew the man she was going to marry was not one of these three childhood friends who had once betrayed her for life. Beyond shock, they could only feel relief. As for these elders who were kept in the dark and still wholeheartedly hoped for their union, after learning what they had done to Sophia, they would probably never bring up the marriage alliance again in this lifetime. And indeed, as she had anticipated, once the elders came to their senses, they immediately summoned bodyguards to forcibly restrain Noel, Milan, and Lionel, who were trying to rush off to confront Sophia. Humiliated so publicly, they were so furious they pounded the table, their anger reaching the heavens. Today is Tiffany's birthday. Instead of staying here to celebrate with her, where do you think you're running off to? To find that butler's daughter. Let me tell you, as long as we're around, you'll never have anything to do with her again in this lifetime. The moment they heard Sophia was going to commit suicide, the three men's rationality completely shattered. Their hearts and minds were filled only with concern for her safety, wishing they could fly to her side immediately to save her. So whether it was the surrounding uproar of mockery and gossip, the elders fuming before them, or the fortress of human walls trapping them, none of it mattered in their eyes. Is a birthday more important than a human life? If you don't let us leave today, Sophia might come to harm. and the three of us will never marry Tiffany in this lifetime." After throwing down these words, they stripped off their suits, grabbed wine bottles, and smashed them in front of the bodyguards. In an instant, the entire banquet hall descended into chaos, with screams erupting non-stop. Watching the three of them break through the encirclement and leave without looking back, Tiffany on the stage curled her lips into a self-mocking smile. Even in this second life, they still abandoned everything for Sophia. She lowered her head, touching her chest, feeling her heart pounding so fast it might leap out. Apart from the uncontrollable bitterness and heaviness, she could no longer feel any pain. As the guests below the stage saw them run away, they all turned their gazes toward Tiffany. All three childhood friends actually fell for the daughter of the family's housekeeper. Oh my God! Tiffany must be utterly humiliated. How pitiful. Today was supposed to be her birthday, and now the groom has run away. The banquet is ruined. Could she possibly lose her mind right here? Facing these speculations, Tiffany remained as composed as ever. She gently patted her still shocked parents, took the microphone, and spoke calmly. "There was an unexpected incident just now that startled everyone. On behalf of my parents, I'd like to apologize to you all. Additionally, I want to announce that my wedding will be held the day after tomorrow, and my marriage partner is City B's Horace family's Orville. Everyone is welcome to attend the ceremony." These few words plunged the entire room into a hushed silence once again. Tiffany didn't care about their reactions as she supported her parents and left the hotel. The carriage was extremely quiet the whole way, with the sound of breathing clearly audible. Just before getting off, Mr. Oswald and Mrs. Oswald let out a heavy sigh and looked at their daughter with deep affection. "Tiffany, did you insist on canceling the arranged marriage and marrying into the Horace family because you knew they favored Sophia?" "Yes. A forced marriage is never happy. Although Orville and I don't have deep feelings for each other, he is completely devoted to his career and would never cheat. We may not grow old together in love, but we can at least maintain mutual respect. For me, that's enough." Hearing her speak with such conviction, Mr. Oswald and Mrs. Oswald were both taken aback. "Do you really trust Orville that much?" Tiffany nodded gently, soothing them with her soft voice. "Yes, because I've investigated him. But the real reason," she didn't tell her parents, burying it deep in her heart. In his previous life, Orville never married and was never involved in any romantic rumors, remaining the infamous, cold-faced king of hell in the business world until his death. So she believed that the step she was taking would absolutely not be wrong. After this farcical birthday banquet ended, Tiffany returned home and began to focus intently on packing her belongings. The wedding was held in City B. The day before the wedding, Horace's family sent several private jets to deliver the betrothal gifts and pick up the bride. After packing the luggage and dowry, Tiffany was about to head to the airport when she received a message. It was an address sent by Noel, asking her to come over now as they wanted to talk to him. She checked the time and saw there were still 4 or 5 hours before departure, so she agreed. When she arrived at the private room and pushed the door open, 3 gloomy gazes immediately fell upon her. They remained silent. Tiffany also kept quiet. 10 minutes later, Noel finally took a sip of wine and spoke in a low voice. "Tiffany, we're sorry for the scene at the birthday banquet yesterday, but a life is at stake. We couldn't just stand by and watch Sophia die, so we had no choice but to wrong you. You've done things that wronged me more than once. I don't need this apology, and you don't need to say sorry either." Tiffany's indifferent attitude made the 3 of them feel even worse. Milan and Lionel's tones grew noticeably more urgent. "What's done is done. Getting angry and saying these things won't help. Right now, the elders of several families are upset. But Sophia is innocent and shouldn't be dragged into this. You've always been the favorite of the elders since childhood. Just act a little spoiled and coax them, and they'll surely calm down. Just go and coax the elders a bit. Make sure they don't target Sophia. No matter whom you choose among us for this arranged marriage, that person will cherish you and love you for a lifetime. Okay." Turns out this time they sought her out. Still to protect Sophia. Tiffany just felt exhausted. No need. After you left yesterday, I've already publicly announced. Before she could finish, Noelle cut her off. Announced what? Who did you choose? Her gaze shifted between them. But in the end, she didn't speak directly, only saying, the betrothal gifts sent by your three families back then. I've already handed them to the courier. They'll be delivered to you tomorrow. After hearing her words, all three of them assumed she had returned two of the gifts and wanted to ask for clarification on who she had chosen. But before they could, the hospital called. Mr. Lemoyne, Mr. Jonathan, Mr. Ives. Miss Sophia has woken up and is demanding to go to the rooftop again. Upon hearing this news, their expressions changed abruptly, and they grabbed their coats to leave immediately. Watching their retreating figures, Tiffany called out to them for the first and last time. Before we part, could you all wish me a happy marriage together? For some reason, upon hearing these words, Noelle, Milan, and Lionel were suddenly overwhelmed by an intense, inexplicable feeling. All three of them slightly parted their lips, wanting to ask her why she wanted them to say those words. The words were on the tip of their tongues, but after exchanging a glance, they simultaneously uttered the phrase, "Happy wedding." As soon as the words were spoken, the hospital called again. Without lingering any longer, they left directly. Tiffany didn't try to stop them either. After watching their car drive away, she returned home. She deleted all three of their contact information, then boarded the helicopter arranged by Horace's family with her luggage. In this lifetime, she chose none of the three. Instead, she chose to embrace her brand new life. When Noelle, Milan, and Lionel rushed to the hospital, Sophia had already been talked down. Lying in bed with teary eyes, she gazed at the three of them, as if accusing them of not being there for her. "Why did you take so long to come?" Sophia burst into tears as soon as she finished speaking. The three of them immediately felt heartbroken and instantly surrounded her in the middle. "Don't cry. We're here now." Noelle wiped away Sophia's tears, looking at her with deep affection in his eyes. "That's right. You've just recovered, so you shouldn't experience extreme joy or sorrow. Focus on recuperating. We'll all be here with you." Milan watched Noelle's actions and felt he was a step behind. "Yes, we'll all be with you," Lionel said, not wanting to be outdone. "But you still have to marry Miss Tiffany for the alliance. Just thinking about it breaks my heart. I don't want you to be forced by your families into marrying someone you don't love for my sake. A lifetime is too long." Sophia lowered her head dejectedly after saying this. Where the three couldn't see, a cold smile curled at the corners of her lips. When she lifted her head again, she had resumed that pitiful, delicate appearance. Seeing her seemingly self-centered demeanor, all three of them felt deeply moved. They had long forgotten Tiffany's strange behavior from that afternoon. "Sophia, you know perfectly well that it's you we love. Yet you still say such things. Even if any one of us were to marry Tiffany, you would still remain the most important person in our hearts. Sophia, you don't need to worry. You'll always be our favorite." Sophia looked at the three people making all sorts of promises to her, her heart filled with smug satisfaction. "Tiffany, even if you're the Oswald family's young lady, so what? I can still take everything from you." Meanwhile, Tiffany, who had returned home, watched the departing trio, paused for a moment, and then headed to the airport. Upon arriving at the airport, the time was much earlier than she had anticipated. Suddenly remembering something, she immediately called home. "Dad, let's replace Butler Henry. Sophia continuing to live with us isn't appropriate." You go ahead first. Your mom and I will follow later." After putting down the phone, it was time for takeoff. So he powered off directly and went to sleep. The Oswald family parents had originally planned to dismiss Butler Henry as well. Initially, out of kindness, they sympathized with his difficulty raising a daughter alone and allowed him to bring her to live with them. "Now I've brought such great shame upon the family. Notify HR directly and send the dismissal contract to the butler. Unexpectedly, upon receiving the notice, the butler barged into the study without even knocking to demand an explanation. Mr. Oswald, what have I done wrong that you're firing me? Butler Henry, you're not suited for our household. Looking at the indignant butler Henry, Mr. Oswald felt nothing but annoyance. It seemed he had been too lenient with the household staff, making them forget their place, even if the young masters of the Lemoyne, Jonathan, and Ives families fancy my daughter. It's only because the young lady lacks charm. Watching the incessantly chattering butler, Mr. Oswald once again regretted his initial soft-heartedness. He directly called security to drag the person out, and had the maid throw out the luggage as well. The butler, expelled from the Oswald household, was deeply resentful. Was it a crime for his daughter to be charming? Clearly, the Oswalds were being utterly unreasonable. He called Sophia at the hospital and demanded with righteous indignation that Sophia find him a well-paying job with minimal work. Upon receiving the call, Sophia was also furious to hear that Mr. Oswald had kicked her and her father out of the Oswald household. After living in the Oswald household for so long, how could they just kick us out without any reason? She immediately began weeping and wailing to the three of them. Noel, Milan, Lionel, what should we do? The Oswald family kicked me and my dad out because of the young lady's birthday banquet. She continued sobbing. The young lady is angry with me. I know. But what did my dad do wrong to be treated like this? Upon hearing this, the three immediately wanted to call Tiffany to have her retract the decision to fire Joe's father. After calling for a long time, all they got was, "The number you have dialed is currently switched off." For a moment, the expressions on all three faces turned grim. Sophia, don't worry. I won't let your father be homeless. I have a vacant villa that you and your father can move into first. Sophia, I also have one. Watching the three people in front of her compete to have her stay in their villas, Sophia was overwhelmed with emotion. Thank goodness I have you all. The three of them arranged Henry's family's accommodations for the father and daughter before returning home. Early the next morning, just as they were about to visit Sophia in the hospital, they each received a personal keepsake sent by Tiffany. Noel stared at the imperial green jade bracelet in the package. Tiffany hadn't chosen him after all. Why wasn't it him? Tiffany didn't like him. When they were little, Tiffany loved following him around, sweetly calling him Noel brother. She said she would marry him when she grew up. Did she choose Milan or Lionel? The same scene played out in the homes of the other two families. Milan and Lionel looked at the keepsakes in their hands, feeling equally unsettled. Where do I fall short compared to Noel? The three of them, as if telepathically connected, went to each other's homes only to find no one there. They finally agreed in the chat group to meet at their usual restaurant's private room, where the trio finally reunited. When Milan arrived, Noel was already seated in the private room. Seeing the keepsake in each other's hands, they both felt Tiffany had chosen Lionel. There was a silence between the two. Lionel arrived to find his two brothers staring intently at him. Utterly baffled, he directly took out his token and held it up in front of them. This is my family heirloom jade pendant. Tiffany returned it. Which one of you was chosen by Tiffany? The two of them, upon seeing the jade pendant in his hand, exchanged incredulous glances and each took out their own family heirlooms. Tiffany has returned my family's heirloom. Mine too. A sudden silence fell among the three. If not us, then who? Lionel broke the silence. Among the four great families, who else is qualified to marry Tiffany? Maybe Tiffany is throwing a tantrum, deliberately waiting for us to coax her, whether to convince himself or them. Milan spoke up. Yes, it must be like this. Definitely like this. The three of them spoke over each other, creating a momentary scene of chaos. Suddenly, the ringing of a phone interrupted their speculations. Noel saw Sophia's call, but for some reason, he didn't seem very eager to answer it. The call ended without him picking up, and soon the phones of the other two also rang one after another. None of them answered. until his phone rang again. "Answer it, just in case something's up," Milan and Lionel said in unison. Noel finally picked up the call and put it on speaker. "Hello, Sophia. What's going on?" "Noel, are Milan and Lionel with you?" "Yes." I put it on speaker. "They can hear you." Noel had just finished speaking when Sophia's slightly excited voice came through the receiver. "Noel, Milan, Lionel, I'm so touched that you stood up against the family for me, refusing the arranged marriage with Tiffany." The three men exchanged bewildered glances. Although they were reluctant, they had never actually refused the marriage alliance. Sensing something amiss, they interrupted Sophia's excited voice. "Sophia, what's going on?" There was a brief moment of confusion in the voice on the other end, followed by, "Didn't you all reject the marriage alliance? So Tiffany ended up marrying the illegitimate child of City B's Horace family." "What?" The three of them were shocked upon hearing this. Tiffany married into City B's Horace family. When did this happen? And how come they didn't know about it? As heirs of wealthy families, they naturally knew about City B's Horace family. Orville. They acknowledged that although he was very capable, he was an illegitimate child, and these legitimate heirs of wealthy families despised nothing more than illegitimate children. Orville. How could an illegitimate child like him be worthy of Tiffany? "Tiffany, are you degrading yourself just to spite them?" They all took out their phones to search for the news, looking at the promotions from various marketing accounts on the phone. Horace family's illegitimate child rose to power and gained the favor of City N's one of the four major wealthy families, the Oswald family's young lady, further solidifying his position. Why did the wealthy family's young lady choose him? An illegitimate child. No matter how unwilling they were to believe it, they couldn't deny Tiffany's impending marriage to someone else. "Noel, Milan, Lionel, are you still there?" After a long silence from the other end, Sophia called out their names, but the three were too shocked by the news to pay attention to Sophia. Noel immediately hung up and called his assistant to book the earliest flight to City B. "And ours too. We're going together to bring Tiffany back. How could she just marry someone out of spite with us?" Milan also means this. When the assistant informed them that tickets to City B were sold out for the day, they immediately mobilized their family's influence to apply for a private jet route to fly directly to City B. After the call ended, the three of them fell into a silent stare. Sophia's phone rang again, but clearly none of the three were in the mood to deal with Sophia. In silent agreement, they all chose to turn off their phones. At the hospital, Sophia looked at the phone call that wouldn't connect, her good mood instantly plummeting to rock bottom. When the phone finally announced that the called number was powered off, she was so furious that she threw her phone directly to the ground. "Tiffany!" Sophia shouted Tiffany's name with full of hatred. Her eyes filled with malice as she stared at the shattered phone. She asked the caregiver to buy a new phone. Then she left the hospital directly to find the three of them. Applying for a flight route takes time, so they kept calling and texting Tiffany. "Tiffany, don't marry some illegitimate child out of spite with us. Tiffany, we can pretend nothing happened when you come back. Tiffany, don't be willful." Far away in City B, Tiffany saw the text message they sent and figured they must have received the gift she mailed. "Tiffany, the groom's party has arrived." Mrs. Oswald looked at her daughter in wedding attire, her eyes involuntarily reddening. "Mom, Dad, I'll be fine." She couldn't promise her parents that she would definitely be happy, so she could only make this commitment to them. Leaving the three of them would prevent her from repeating the mistakes of her past life. Mr. Oswald, Mrs. Oswald, they were well aware of the unspoken meaning behind their daughter's words, but in their position, there were often times when they couldn't act solely according to their own wishes. They could only hope their daughter would find happiness like theirs. "Tiffany, your parents will always be your strongest support." Tiffany looked at her worried parents and smiled. After adding all three phone numbers to the blacklist, she set the phone aside. Holding a round fan, she sat quietly on the bed, waiting for the groom who had no connection whatsoever with Sophia to come for her. Hearing the prompt tone from the receiver, they immediately understood. They had been blocked by Tiffany. They could only keep urging the progress on the flight route. Orville stood outside the door, gazing at the tightly shut room, unable to contain his joy at the thought that his long-awaited bride was inside. He had never imagined he would have the chance to marry the one he had always yearned for. Though it's unclear why she gave up on the 3 childhood friends who grew up with her and chose to marry him instead. Perhaps it was heaven taking pity on his years of hardship. But no matter what happened, the outcome was favorable to him. Red envelopes were scattered without restraint, finally moving those inside to mercifully open the door before them. Looking at Tiffany sitting quietly on the bed, he felt his heart was about to leap out of his chest. Orville pretended to be calm as he walked toward Tiffany. Tiffany heard the sound of the door opening and saw the groom approaching her, raising her eyes to look at him. The moment their eyes met, both of them froze for a second. Orville was Tiffany, dressed up so beautifully that he was stunned. Tiffany was Orville, startled by the emotions in his eyes. Isn't this an arranged marriage? Why does he look like he's gotten his wish? If she wasn't certain, she had no memory of such a handsome face. She would have suspected she might have been with him at some point without realizing it. Holding Tiffany as he walked toward the wedding car, Orville looked like a general who had won a battle. Although his face remained as stern as ever, anyone could tell he was overjoyed. Mr. Oswald and Mrs. Oswald were also somewhat puzzled. Orville was not quite what they had imagined. Perhaps their daughter's choice was right after all. The two in the wedding car. Orville didn't know what to say. Tiffany was the same. So for a moment, the atmosphere became somewhat awkward. They both spoke simultaneously. Tiffany looked at the other's nervous expression and suddenly relaxed. You go first, Tiffany said with a playful smile. Are you hungry? I've prepared some food for you. You'll be quite tired today. Orville looked at his slender bride with concern. Thank you, Tiffany responded politely out of habit. Don't be so formal with me. Tiffany's expression of thanks made Orville somewhat frustrated. Tiffany was now genuinely curious about this husband of hers. He was somewhat different from the rumors circulating outside. Looking at his reddened ear tips, she could sense that Orville didn't feel repulsed by the idea of an arranged marriage. Upon arriving at the hotel, Tiffany was escorted to the suite to change into the most important wedding dress for the entire ceremony. The heavily embroidered wedding gown resembled a meticulously crafted work of art, with its complex and delicate production process reflecting the craftsman's dedication and wisdom in every step. Tiffany was instantly captivated by this wedding dress at first sight. Following Tiffany, the makeup artist and the crowd all exclaimed in admiration. So beautiful. When Tiffany stepped out of the dressing room in her wedding dress, the crowd was once again awestruck by Tiffany's beauty and the dress's magnificence. The makeup artist gazed at Tiffany's flawless skin and sighed once more, feeling that no makeup could ever match her beauty. Summon every ounce of focus to meticulously sculpt the countenance of this new awe-inspired graduation project. Please welcome the bride. As the host's words rang out, the banquet hall doors slowly swung open. All eyes were drawn to Mr. Oswald leading Tiffany by the hand. Tiffany, draped in a wedding gown, moved with ethereal grace, like a fairy stepping out from a dream. Orville felt as if his heart had been struck by Cupid's arrow. Everything was going unbelievably smoothly. He took Tiffany's hand from Mr. Oswald, so nervous that he was momentarily walking out of step. Mr. Oswald looked at his son-in-law's demeanor and once again marveled that his daughter had made the right choice. He and Mrs. Oswald could finally relax. They returned to their seats, sitting beside Mrs. Oswald, and he gently patted Mrs. Oswald's hand. They exchanged a glance, understanding everything without words. Groom, do you vow to uphold the marriage vows? To love, comfort, honor, and protect her, whether in wealth or poverty, in sickness or health, in beauty or fading, in prosperity or adversity, and do you promise to remain faithful to her throughout your lives? Orville looked into Tiffany's eyes and answered firmly, I do. The burning emotion in his eyes made Tiffany feel somewhat overwhelmed. He likes me. Tiffany was absolutely certain. How did these feelings come about? Tiffany was lost in thought. Bride, do you agree? The MC, noticing the distracted bride, asked again. Across from her, Orville held her hand with a hint of nervousness. Tiffany noticed his tension and soothingly intertwined her fingers with his. I do. You may now kiss the bride. Orville gently yet solemnly pressed a kiss to Tiffany's forehead. Even though most of the wedding preparations were handled by Orville, Tiffany was still exhausted. After washing up and lying on the bed in their new home, she began to feel nervous about the upcoming wedding night. Orville stepped out of the bathroom, his gaze burning as he looked at Tiffany lying on the bright red wedding bed. Tiffany had many questions she wanted to ask him, but now was clearly not the right time. Turn off the lights. Tiffany stammered slightly. Orville left a warm yellow bedside lamp on, leaning down to kiss his bride. The movements on the bed rose and fell without pause. After what seemed like an eternity, Tiffany's soft sobs could be heard. No, no more. Be good. Just one last time. Orville whispered coaxingly. Well, all right then. Tiffany was easily persuaded by him. The commotion on the large bed didn't cease until dawn approached. Orville held Tiffany, quickly freshened up, and then fell asleep. On the other side, the three who arrived at the wedding venue by private jet looked at the empty banquet hall. Realizing they were late, they immediately drove to Horace's house. Upon reaching Horace's house, all three were stopped outside, with tight security preventing them from entering. The three could only return to the car and wait quietly, each minute and second feeling excruciatingly long. They had never felt time pass so slowly before. Until the break of dawn, no one from Horace's household came out except for those sent to make purchases. Seizing the moment when the servants stepped out to shop, the three exchanged glances and followed. Once the vehicle turned the corner, they intercepted the shopping car and had the servant take them inside. After a rather unfriendly negotiation, the servant led them inside. As soon as they entered Horace's estate, they headed straight for the main building. The servant in charge of procurement immediately contacted security upon gaining freedom, and the alarm sounded throughout the estate. Tiffany couldn't sleep due to the blaring alarm, kicked the person holding her tightly in dissatisfaction. What's going on? Someone broke in. Go back to sleep. I'll go check it out. Wait Orville to go out. Tiffany couldn't sleep either. She also got up to wash up, looking at the marks all over her body in the bathroom mirror, and muttered helplessly, must be a dog. She chose a long-sleeved, high-necked outfit to wear, but seeing the areas that couldn't be covered, she simply gave up. As soon as she went downstairs, she saw the three uninvited guests being pinned down. What brings you here? Noel, Milan, and Lionel looked at Tiffany descending the stairs and immediately stopped their conversation with Orville. They instantly noticed Tiffany's uncovered love bite on her neck. Suddenly, their hearts ached as if they couldn't breathe, and they turned to glare fiercely at the thoroughly satisfied Orville, as if trying to tear a piece of flesh from him. Orville completely ignored their gazes, stood up quickly, and walked over to Tiffany to help her sit on the sofa. Tiffany glared at the culprit beside her who had made her waist sore. Orville rubbed the tip of his nose. Hungry. After speaking, she signaled him to explain what was going on with the three people in the living room. They took the kitchen staff hostage to sneak into the villa and were caught as intruders. Let them go. They're like brothers to me. Orville heard his wife say this and signaled the security to release them. Brother. Hearing Tiffany introduce herself like this, the three of them momentarily forgot their embarrassment, only feeling their hearts ache even more. Tiffany. As soon as they were free, the three immediately moved toward Tiffany, only to be blocked again. Looking at the person blocking them, the three had no choice but to stand still and speak to Tiffany. Tiffany, you can't just marry someone out of spite. Come back with us. I wouldn't mind if you came back with us. We can pretend nothing happened. The words of the three made Orville furious. He was about to say something when Tiffany raised her hand to stop him. She gave her new husband a reassuring glance before turning to look at the three figures not far away. Noelle, Milan, Lionel, don't take yourselves too seriously. Would I marry someone randomly just to spite you? Don't you think that's ridiculous? As for whether you mind or not, does it even matter to me? Who do you think you are, saying such things? Seems I was too nice to you before, giving you such delusions. Are you even worthy? After saying this, she went to have dinner with Orville. Orville, seeing his wife's merciless words towards the three of them, couldn't hide his delight. He signaled the bodyguard to throw the person out, not wanting to ruin his wife's appetite. Tiffany. The voice gradually faded away. After finishing her meal, Tiffany gazed at the gloomy sky outside, ears listening to the butler telling Orville that the three people outside were standing at the door and wouldn't leave. Don't mind them, Tiffany said while looking at Orville. You don't need to deliberately let me know these things. You should know my relationship with them. Now that I'm married to you, it means I've completely let go of the past. Seen through Orville showed not a trace of embarrassment. Now let's talk about why you looked like you've known me all along. Orville paused awkwardly upon hearing this, his smile faltering slightly. How could he possibly tell his wife that he'd fallen in love at first sight with her student ID photo after picking up her lost card on campus? Later, when I saw her helping someone who was being bullied at school, I was deeply drawn to her. Orville thought about it and decided to be honest. I went to the same high school as you. How come I don't remember you? At that time, I hadn't yet returned to Horace's house. Later, after being taken back to Horace's house, I left. No wonder. Boom. A sudden clap of thunder startled them both. A heavy rain began to fall outside the window. The two continued chatting without a care, eager to learn more about each other. The three in the rain seemed forgotten by the world. They stood stubbornly in the downpour, letting the rain pour over them. The rain was heavy, yet it couldn't wash away the pain in their hearts. Didn't I like Sophia? Why does Tiffany's wedding hurt me so much? Lionel's words left the other two at a loss for what to say. Seeing their silence, he continued murmuring softly. Do you think Tiffany will really never forgive us? She will. Tiffany has always been the softest with us. She'll definitely come out when she knows we're standing in the rain. Yeah, she cares about us the most. The three of them stood self-deceptively in the rain until Noelle's body couldn't take it anymore and collapsed. The other two tried to help him up but also collapsed. Sophia arrived at City B. Horace's house and saw this scene, all three of them lying in the rain. She quickly called an ambulance to take them to the hospital. The patient recently donated a kidney and hasn't fully recovered. Being drenched in such heavy rain has caused a persistent high fever. Both of them had lost too much blood before and hadn't fully recovered. So getting caught in the rain led to persistent high fevers. In the hospital, Sophia was exhausted from taking care of three people alone. She kept wiping their foreheads and constantly monitored their 4 drips. Lionel and Milan were the first to wake up. Seeing themselves in the hospital room, they both thought Tiffany had brought them there. Looking at the still unconscious Noelle and my own weakened body, I no longer felt distressed. Footsteps sounded outside the door, and both thought it was Tiffany, staring eagerly at the door. Before the words could be finished, they saw it was Sophia who walked in. Both of them wore expressions of disappointment. Milan, Lionel, you're awake, Sophia exclaimed with delight, not having heard them blurt out Tiffany. I was so worried about you. As she spoke, she walked toward their bedside and reached out to touch Milan's forehead, only for him to flinch away. You. Sophia's eyes instantly welled up with tears. I'm fine. Go take care of Lionel. Milan didn't know why, but she wasn't very keen on having her forehead touched. I'm fine too. You should go take care of Noelle. Looking at Sophia, who was gazing at him with a pitiful expression, Lionel somehow didn't feel like comforting her either. You're both so mean, she said, turning her head away and waiting for them to comfort her. After waiting for a long while with no one paying her any attention, she felt something was off. When she turned around, she saw both of them silently staring at the ceiling, lost in thought. completely oblivious to her mood. Just as I was about to speak, I saw Noel wake up. Noel, you're finally awake. You don't know what they... Noel had just woken up when he heard Sophia chattering incessantly, giving him a headache. He couldn't help but speak up to stop her. Shut up. Sophia stood frozen in place. What was happening? Why were all three of them treating her like this? Noel felt only irritation when he saw Sophia's tears, no longer the heartache he once felt. Yesterday, standing outside Horace's estate, they had both seen the truth in their hearts. They loved Tiffany, which was why they couldn't accept Tiffany marrying someone else. As for Sophia, it was merely pity born from seeing her as too fragile. If they wanted to win back Tiffany, they would have to send Sophia away. Sophia saw the three of them lost in thought and felt increasingly uneasy, a growing sense of unease settling in her heart. She didn't know what to do, so she could only continue to play the victim, hoping to evoke their pity. You three are too much. Despite my own weakened state, I've been wholeheartedly taking care of you, and this is how you treat me after waking up. Noel, Milan and Lionel watched the tearful Sophia and couldn't help but think of Tiffany. If it were her, she would never make such a fuss over doing the slightest thing. She would only feel sorry for them and quietly take care of everything without a word. After all, he had taken care of them, so he finally spoke up. You've worked hard. Let me transfer you some money. Go buy something for yourself. I'll find you an easy job. You should go back now. I'll arrange a house for you. You and your daughter should move out of the villa. Hearing their words, Sophia momentarily forgot to cry, standing frozen in place. Are you trying to draw a line with me? Tiffany is still angry with us. It'd be better if you left, Noel said expressionlessly, looking at her. She's already married. None of you are forced to marry her anymore. So why is it like this now? Who said we were forced? You don't love her at all. Shut up. Since when do our feelings need your commentary here? The three of them looked at her coldly. Sophia hadn't been subjected to such gazes from them since she first seduced the trio. I couldn't help but think back to when I first arrived at Oswald's house and met the three of them. They were just as cold and indifferent then as they are now. After years of effort, I finally managed to create a rift between them and Tiffany, making them treat me better. Now everything has reverted to how it was before, and she simply couldn't accept it. Tiffany is already married. Just a few days ago, you ruined her birthday banquet and refused the marriage alliance for my sake. Have you forgotten? Sophia cried out in near breakdown. Tiffany doesn't care about you at all. If she truly did, she wouldn't have let you get drenched in the storm or ignored you when you fainted. Shut up, the three shouted in unison, their anger flaring up again at the reminder. Watching Sophia cry her heart out, the last shred of sympathy for her vanished. Did Tiffany say something to you? Even after getting married, she's still trying to sow discord. She's just a bitch. She kept cursing loudly at Tiffany, completely unlike her former doormat self. Perhaps this was her true nature. If you keep talking like this, I promise you'll regret it. Noel gazed at her coldly, and Sophia suddenly remembered they were heirs to the four great families. The same people who had once doted on her, always gentle and polite in her presence. But that didn't mean this was who they truly were. She'd witnessed firsthand how viciously the trio had driven someone who offended her to madness. Sophia stiffened, her back drenched in cold sweat, and continued to play dumb as she spoke. You've just woken up and aren't clear-headed. I won't argue with you. I'll go call a doctor. With that, she quickly left the ward. The moment she stepped out of the ward, her face twisted into an extremely distorted expression. Her eyes filled with darkness. Tiffany, why don't you just die? Why won't you die? The passing medical staff were startled by her expression, but she quickly adjusted her demeanor and went to serve the meals. To maintain her current life, she had no choice but to cling tightly to them. Having tasted the life of high society, how could she be willing to return to an ordinary existence? She had clearly obtained all of this. Tiffany had been striving to reciprocate his affection Orville ever since she learned of his secret love for her. The newlywed couple remained inseparable, sticking together like glue every day. Their feelings quickly grew warmer. There was just one thing Tiffany couldn't stand. Although she had been married 3 times in her past life, they all treated her as if she didn't exist. She had never experienced the joys of intimacy between a man and a woman. Ever since marrying Orville, he would pester her every night until midnight. They say the land never wears out from plowing. Only the ox dies from exhaustion. Orville, whether he's tired or not, she doesn't know. But she truly can't take it anymore. She set a rule limiting him to once a day. But he'd drag that one time out for hours until Orville was banished from the bedroom. Hugging a pillow, Orville stood outside the firmly shut bedroom door, pitifully apologizing to the person inside. "Darling, I was wrong. I won't do it again. Please forgive me just this once." Tiffany, listening to his pitiful voice, she recalled the last time she had softened and let him in. She hadn't left her bedroom the next day. Her momentarily softened heart hardened again. "Go sleep in the guest room. I'm going to bed. Don't disturb me." Orville, seeing that playing the victim wasn't working, he obediently grabbed his pillow and headed to the study to handle company matters. After an hour or two, he stealthily opened the door with the key, got into bed, and hugged Tiffany to sleep. He had no intention of sleeping in the guest room. Separate beds would only harm their relationship. Only when Tiffany was in his arms could he sleep soundly. The next morning, when Tiffany woke up, she felt something hot pressed tightly against her lower body. "I still think I'm being too soft on him." Kicking him off the bed with one foot, "I head to the bathroom to wash up." "Honey, why did you kick me off the bed again?" Still half asleep, Orville finds himself kicked off the bed once more and thinks his wife has been particularly irritable lately. Maybe her period is coming. In any case, it definitely couldn't be because of him. "Honey, I'll take you to the hot springs later and give you a back rub," Tiffany S. Orville said with a satisfied smile. Seeing the man who acted like he couldn't live without her, Tiffany's anger melted away. After breakfast, the two headed to the hot spring resort. Admiring the elegant scenery of the hot spring resort, Tiffany casually took a photo and posted it on her social media. 3 people, all scrolling through their phones, saw Tiffany's photo posted in her social media feed. Tiffany's hand was tightly enveloped by a large hand as they strolled through a bamboo forest. Even through the screen, one could sense her relaxed and joyful mood. They immediately sent the photo to their assistant, instructing him to find out the location. After receiving the address from the assistant, all 3 pulled out their 4 drips, changed clothes, and took a car to the hot spring resort. Sophia returned just in time to see the 3 figures hurriedly walking away. She quickly put down what she was holding and followed them. By the time the 3 arrived at the hot spring resort, several hours had already passed. Tiffany and Orville had already finished their hot spring bath and were eating. "Orville, you bastard. You said you'd help me relax. But you..." The rest of her words were too much to say out loud. Thinking of Orville's behavior in the hot spring, the temperature on her face instantly rose. Glaring at Orville with a flushed face, Orville felt his heart itch under Tiffany's gaze. But he knew if he didn't coax her properly, he might get kicked out of the bedroom again tonight. "Darling, I deeply realize my mistake. Don't be angry. Have something to eat. You must be exhausted." Pouting angrily, Tiffany took a big bite of the steak he handed her, as if venting her frustration, glaring at him fiercely while chewing the food in her mouth. Yet what she thought was a fierce expression appeared incredibly adorable in Orville's eyes. His heart was melting from how cute his wife was. He kept feeding Tiffany until she couldn't eat another bite. Only then did he leisurely start his own meal. Noelle, Milan and Lionel found Tiffany smiling brightly as she watched the man beside her eat. Her eyes filled with affection. The atmosphere between the two was so sweet, as if no third person could ever intrude. This scene deeply wounded the hearts of the 3 men. They felt as if they couldn't breathe. These moments had once been theirs alone, and now, there were hardly any people left in the restaurant as the 3 approached them with solemn expressions. The 2 diners didn't notice the trio at first, mistaking them for passing waitstaff. It wasn't until they sensed the prolonged presence that they finally looked up. At the sight of the three of them, Tiffany's smiling lips quickly fell. What are you doing here again? Didn't we make it clear last time? Noelle, Milan and Lionel were once again stung by Tiffany's sudden change in expression. Tiffany, we came specifically to see you. Can we talk? Noelle ventured cautiously. What do you have to talk about with my wife? Orville said protectively, although his wife had told him she no longer had any feelings for the three of them. He still didn't want her to be alone with them. After all, they had known each other since childhood, spending over 20 years together, and his wife was someone who easily softened her heart. Tiffany. The three of them didn't respond to Orville's words, completely ignoring him as their gazes remained fixed on Tiffany. Tiffany didn't want them to continue harassing her in the future, so she agreed to their request for a private conversation, comfortingly kissed Orville's lips, then coldly stared at the three standing individuals after he left. Sit down. Speak. Her double standards in treating herself versus Orville made Noelle, Milan, and Lionel feel quite uncomfortable. Orville kicked pebbles boredly outside the restaurant when he saw a plainly dressed woman in a white sundress approach him, staring at him with teary, lifeless fish eyes. Thinking he was in her way, Orville shifted aside slightly. Sophia stiffened momentarily at his movement, her pitiful expression freezing on her face. Yet she readjusted her demeanor in an instant. Are you Tiffany's husband? Orville looked at the inexplicable woman before him and didn't respond. I am the daughter of Tiffany's housekeeper. Miss Tiffany has some misunderstandings about me. She likes the young masters of the Lemoyne family, the Jonathan family, and the Ives family, and the young masters of these three families treat me rather specially, so she often targets me. As she spoke, she wiped the tears from the corner of her eye. I came to apologize to Miss Tiffany. I hope she won't rush into marriage on impulse and regret it for the rest of her life, especially since she loves the three young masters so much. Just as Sophia was racking her brains to frame Tiffany, she failed to notice the man opposite her, whose expression had shifted from impassive to darkly sullen. Are green teas this low level nowadays? Unable to listen any longer, Orville cut off her incessant chatter. Sophia was left speechless. I just don't want you to get hurt. How can you be so ungrateful? The three young masters you mentioned are the ones who keep pestering my wife, aren't they? They treat you so specially, yet you don't look any better for it. They've really done a poor job taking care of you. Unlike me, ever since my wife married me, she's been glowing with happiness. A gutter rat like you isn't even fit to polish her shoes. If it weren't for wanting her to disrupt their conversation, he wouldn't have bothered wasting his breath on this crazy woman. If you don't appreciate it, fine, but why resort to insults? With that, she put on a deeply wounded expression and turned to leave. Stubborn, insufferable man. Tiffany, how dare you be so lucky, leaving three wealthy families and still ending up with such an outstanding man. Turning around, Sophia had a gloomy expression, cursing Tiffany under her breath, thinking no one saw her change of expression, unaware that it was all clearly reflected in the glass. Orville's cold voice came from behind her. That two-faced green tea bitch. Don't let me find out you're bad-mouthing my wife. You don't want to know the consequences of crossing me. Sophia's steps faltered as she was about to turn around, only to suddenly notice the restaurant's glass wall reflecting her entire expression shift. She could only lower her head and stride into the restaurant. As soon as I entered the restaurant, I saw Noelle, Milan and Lionel confessing their love to Tiffany with deep affection. Tiffany, I love you. Sophia immediately stopped in her tracks and stood still, listening quietly. After saying these words in unison, they quietly observed Tiffany's reaction. However, Tiffany showed no expression at all, even leisurely pouring herself a cup of tea. Tiffany, I know I realized my feelings too late. In the past, I was bewitched by Sophia and thought you were spoiled and unbearable. It was all my fault. We grew up together, and I was deceived by her pitiful appearance. Miss. The energetic voice didn't elicit any movement from the three of them.
Sophia stiffened momentarily without showing it, and despite receiving no response, she continued setting the table. After setting everything up, she went around pulling people to come eat. Having not eaten anything all day, the three of them eventually got out of bed to have their meal. Sophia served them dishes like a maid. After finishing their meal, the three watched Sophia busy herself back and forth, all thinking how much better it would be if it were Tiffany instead. "Wait, Sophia," they said after she finished her work. "You've been a great help lately. What would you like?" "Anything. We'll grant your wish." Sophia, upon hearing their words, she understood everything. Since they were determined to draw a clear line with her, then they shouldn't blame her for being ruthless. Her heart was filled with resentment, yet her face still wore a pitiful expression. She looked at the three of them with tearful eyes. "Am I really that kind of person in your eyes? Did I take care of you just because I wanted something in return?" The three of them just watched her quietly. The tears that had once been so effective with them now seemed utterly useless. Wiping away her tears, she forced a brave tone as she spoke. "I understand. I don't want anything. Could you accompany me for one last shopping trip tomorrow?" Seemingly overwhelmed with grief, she lowered her head and clutched her chest. Only after a long while did she finally raise her eyes to look at them. "Let's consider it a farewell." "Okay." Lionel was visibly moved by her demeanor and finally spoke up. "All right." Noelle and Milan had been hesitating, but upon hearing Lionel agree, they exchanged glances and nodded in approval as well. The next day, the sunlight was splendid, making it a perfectly comfortable day for a stroll. Sophia was dressed in a white dress, wearing a straw sun hat, with delicate makeup, and every strand of her hair meticulously cared for. All three of them had simply changed into casual clothes. Sophia looked at their outfits, feeling somewhat displeased, but thinking about what was about to happen later, she couldn't be bothered to argue with them. The four of them set off together. Throughout the journey, it was Sophia's voice that dominated. Lionel chimed in occasionally, while the other two remained silent. No matter how Sophia tried to liven up the atmosphere, they remained unmoved. In the end, she too fell silent, recalling the scenes of their past shopping trips together and comparing them to the present. The stark contrast nearly made Sophia lose her composure. Occasionally, a twisted expression would flicker across her face, but all three of them were so absent-minded that no one noticed. After arriving at their destination, Sophia began purposefully leading them toward the intersection. Once there, she scanned the area until she spotted the familiar license plate, then continued guiding them forward. "Noelle, Milan, Lionel, there's supposedly a really delicious restaurant ahead. Let us treat you to one last meal to thank you for taking care of me these past few years." "Yeah," the three of them, long tired of shopping, agreed. Upon hearing this, Sophia walked ahead, so they didn't notice the traffic light change. The accident happened in an instant. Sophia turned to see if the other three were following. Suddenly, her eyes widened as she shouted, "Watch out!" With a loud bang, Sophia, who had pushed the three aside, was set flying by the car. The three who had been knocked to the ground were initially annoyed at being suddenly shoved, but when they looked up, they saw Sophia lying in a pool of blood. Sophia, Noelle, Milan, Lionel all screamed in shock, realizing the situation. Noelle immediately called for emergency services. The other two carefully lifted her body. "Sophia, how are you feeling?" "Sophia, you." Sophia was inwardly cursing the unreliable driver, but upon hearing them call her Sophia again, she knew her goal had been achieved. She tried her best to put on a pleasant appearance and spoke weakly. "You guys, as long as you're okay." After speaking, as if unable to bear it any longer, she fainted. The two waiting outside the emergency room looked tense, their minds in turmoil. They had originally intended to distance themselves from Sophia, but now she had suffered such severe injuries for their sake. "Milan, Lionel, guess what I just saw on the surveillance footage?" The belatedly arriving Milan's face was full of disbelief. "What?" The two looked up at him simultaneously. This car accident was premeditated. Who was it? As soon as the two thought of Sophia lying in a pool of blood, all their resentment toward her vanished, leaving only heartache in their hearts. The driver fled and hasn't been caught yet, but the bodyguards found the driver's phone at the scene, which contained a message sent to Tiffany. "See for yourselves." The two stared intently at the familiar number. "Don't worry, Miss Tiffany. I'll definitely get the job done. Don't forget what we agreed on. Tiffany. Noelle stood frozen in place, unable to utter anything beyond Tiffany's name. No way. This must be fake. Lionel angrily threw his phone away, as if not looking meant not having to face it. I don't believe it either. So I'm going to ask Tiffany. Are you coming with me? Milan couldn't believe that Tiffany would do this to them. Let's go. The three of them were just about to go find Tiffany when the operating room door opened, and Sophia was wheeled out. The patient is fine, just needs proper rest, the doctor said before leaving. The three of them looked at the pale-faced Sophia lying on the hospital bed, their eyes filled with heartache. Perhaps because the anesthesia was light, Sophia slowly opened her eyes, looking at the three people surrounding her. The corners of her lips curled slightly, and her eyes curved into crescent shapes. Great. You're all okay. The three of them felt a surge of determination. Even in her condition, she was still concerned about them, which only strengthened their resolve to seek justice for her. Sophia, you rest well first. We found something related to Tiffany at the scene and are planning to ask her what's going on. Tiffany, seemingly unable to comprehend why Tiffany was involved. Their eyes were filled with confusion. This car accident might have been orchestrated by Tiffany. Why would Tiffany do this to us? Upon hearing this news, Sophia widened her eyes in disbelief. Rest well for now. We'll step out for a bit. Be careful and don't get hurt. I'd worry about you. After saying this, she blushed slightly in embarrassment and lowered her eyes. The three of them patted her head and left. After the three had left, Sophia raised her eyes to stare at the door, a cold smile curling at the corners of her lips. Noelle, Milan, Lionel, go turn against your beloved Tiffany. It'd be best if you never spoke to each other again for the rest of your lives. That way, my position will be secure. She took out her phone and sent a message to the driver, telling him to hide well and not get caught. The thought of the four of them tearing into each other later made Sophia absolutely delighted. The pain in her body even seemed to lessen a bit. Meanwhile, the three who had gone to Horace's estate were still being held at the gate. This time, instead of waiting foolishly, they kept calling Tiffany from different numbers and even tried to drive their way in. Utterly annoyed, Tiffany finally came out to meet them. Of course, Orville and a group of bodyguards accompanied her. After all, they clearly looked mentally unstable. Orville was practically worried sick. Tiffany, do you really hate us that much? As soon as Tiffany appeared, Noelle sharply questioned her. Confused, Tiffany had no idea what was happening. We only made a small mistake. And you're willing to disregard years of friendship and want us dead. Milan felt so heartbroken he could barely breathe at the thought that Tiffany had arranged for someone to try and kill them. Tiffany, you've truly let us down so much. Lionel also looked at her with a face full of disappointment. Tiffany was slapped with such a big label without saying a word after coming out. Didn't I say before it's best not to provoke me again? What are you barking about now? Sophia is still lying in the hospital. How could you be so heartless as to say such things? Tiffany, you hired someone to hit us, and we didn't hold it against you. But since Sophia got hurt, you must at least. After listening for a while, she finally understood why they had come to confront her. Tiffany genuinely thought all three of them were brainless idiots. Are you all brainless? Can't you see such an obvious frame-up? Orville, can you find that driver? Got it. He then ordered his men to conduct a citywide search. After speaking with Orville, he turned back to look at the three and continued. I originally didn't want to get involved with you and Sophia, although Sophia caused trouble by sowing discord. The main problem was you three blindly believing everything you heard. After speaking, they took out their phone, removed them from the blacklist, created a group chat, sent some things in, and then left the group and blocked them again. Take a good look at what your dear Sophia has done. The three of them heard the constant notifications from their phones, and as they opened and read the messages, their expressions grew increasingly grim. All of them are the Oswald surveillance footage. Sophia would deliberately fall and injure herself in front of Tiffany whenever she spotted them. After being helped up, she would say ambiguous things. They mindlessly accused Tiffany, ignored her explanations, and defended Sophia. The videos captured it clearly. It was all Sophia's doing. The last video showed the same gang that had cornered them at the academy, bowing and scraping before Sophia. It was obvious they knew each other well. Their relationship was built on deception from the very beginning. Just as they were still lost in thought, Orville sent a message. Let's go. I'll take you to see the driver. The three of them followed the other two into the car, still in a daze. Upon arriving at the destination and stepping out of the car, they immediately saw the driver throw himself at their feet, continuously kowtowing and begging for mercy. I can't explain it clearly. I was blinded by greed, trying to pay off gambling debts, and I believed that woman's words. Noelle pulled out Sophia's photo from the phone and showed it to the driver, asking if it was her. The driver recognized her at once and even took out his phone to show them all their communication records. The three of them looked at the driver's phone, which displayed Sophia's vicious plan and her mocking remarks about their foolishness. Feeling deceived, the three of them grew furious and vented their anger on the driver. Seeing Tiffany standing by and watching their humiliating state, they felt utterly ashamed. Sorry. For the first time, they sincerely apologized to Tiffany and left after promising not to harass her again. Tiffany silently watched the three of them walk away, lost in thought. As long as they remained in their current positions, she might face endless trouble. She took out her phone and sent some videos and recordings to the heads of the three families. Leave the rest to Mom and Dad. They'll help push the process forward for her. The three of them returned to the hospital and saw Sophia sleeping soundly in the hospital bed, their faces filled with anger. They called the bodyguards to have her taken to the villa they had just bought. Originally, they had planned to stay there for convenience in the future, but now it happened to come in handy. Dragged into the villa, Sophia had no idea what was happening. She was awakened by rough handling, and before she could call for help, her mouth was gagged and a hood was pulled over her head. When she saw light again, she found herself in what appeared to be a basement-like space. Seated on the chairs before her were three very familiar faces. Noelle, Milan, Lionel. What's going on? She had just saved the three of them. Shouldn't they be pampering her like a princess? What's going on now? Could they have found out? Impossible. In such a short time. Sophia, take a good look at these before you speak. He raised his hand, signaling the bodyguards to wheel out a monitor, playing Tiffany's video sent to them and the evidence provided by the driver. Sophia knew after watching these that nothing she said would matter anymore. She could only try to use tears to evoke some pity from them. But the three had long become immune to her tears. No matter how many crocodile tears she sheds, they cannot hide her malice. Sophia, don't you love getting these minor injuries to win our sympathy? Next, you'll experience these minor injuries non-stop. Happy now? Got your little kink satisfied? You like living in a villa, don't you? Well, you'll be staying in this villa for the rest of your life. Listening to their malicious words while seeing their sickening smiles, Sophia felt fear for the first time. She shouldn't have provoked them. Please let me go. I won't appear before you again in the future. I was wrong. I was really wrong. With snot and tears smeared across her face, she no longer had the capacity to care about how ugly her crying looked at this point. She did like the villa, but she could imagine how hellish her life in that villa would be from now on. The three who left directly didn't care whether Sophia truly realized her mistake or was just trying to deceive them again. It doesn't matter anymore. She won't be able to leave this villa in the future. The three of them, physically and mentally exhausted, flew back to City Inn. They didn't dare to look for Tiffany again. The harm they had caused her was too great. Just as they returned home, the three of them were hit with a bolt from the blue. They lost their air position and were disowned by the family. They even lived in worse conditions than Sophia. After completely losing Tiffany, the family also abandoned them and began cultivating replacements. Having lost everything, they couldn't bear it and vomited blood before falling into a coma. The three comatose individuals seemed to have experienced the same dream, witnessing the previous life of Tiffany from a third-person perspective. 2 months later, when the three awoke, they appeared as if their souls had departed. Originally still trying to seek forgiveness from their families, they suddenly lost all vitality, aging 10 years in an instant, gray hair at a young age. After living in the nursing home for a year, on a very ordinary afternoon, the three of them wrote an apology letter to Tiffany. They then hanged themselves with bed sheets in the bathroom. By the time the caregivers found them, the three were already stiff, and that apology letter never reached Tiffany's hands. It was mistaken for trash and disposed of by a cleaner who could barely read. By the time Tiffany learned of their deaths, all three had already been buried. She hasn't seen them since they left last time, and she simply regards them as strangers now. Tiffany interrupted the other side, delivering a piece of good news. Mom, I'm pregnant. On the other end of the phone, Mrs. Oswald's attention was immediately drawn to Tiffany's unborn child. She began discussing with Mr. Oswald about quickly wrapping up company affairs to visit their daughter in City B. After setting the time and hanging up the phone, Tiffany let out a sigh and put their matter out of her mind. Honey, come try this new dish I learned to make. From the kitchen came Orville's voice. Coming.